Hey everyone, it's Sandy Schroeck for Lembush Roses, and today we're going to be creating a centerpiece that's using the feature flower of sunflowers. So here you can see that I've created a pave style design that's a lower profile centerpiece. We've paved in 3 of the sunflowers and then added some depth and dimension through this design by adding some elements that bring your eye across that pave. The other thing that I like to do on this is, rather than present them in a straight line, is present them on a diagonal. And by placement on a diagonal, when you look at it from this angle, it looks like one Leucadendron. If I place it on the diagonal, you can see that there's 3 Leucadendron in, there's 3 of the sunflowers. These are the Ring of Fire sunflowers that have a little bit more of that depth of color in, a little bit more brown into the center in there, and then just adding a variety of textures. So I'm going to create another one for you, and let's just get that going. I'm going to start off with just a low profile centerpiece design. You can see that I've put the foam in here already and wet that. I cut it to be even with the container so that I don't have a lot of foam to hide. I'm going to start off with by using a couple foliage placements that are going to come in, and this is Fatsia Aurelia leaf. We're going to come down on both sides in there, and then we're going to come in with one up the middle, and this one's going to be in at a little bit of an angle, so I'm going to put some materials underneath here to shelter over that piece. So the next placements we're going to do are going to be some of the accent pieces, and here I've got some fresh green wheat, and I'm going to come across the design on here, just do a little bit of a rip there, and so we're going to come across on the diagonal, and I'm just going to use some Dixon pins to pin that into place in 2 positions, and utilizing the beauty of the stems coming out the other end too, but that makes a great elongated piece. You can see that I left them out pretty long right now, and that's so that once I've added my floral materials through here, that they're still going to be able to be visible. And then I have a Coontie Palm that's just going to come in and extend the length on this centerpiece. Use 2 on one side and 1 on the other. There, and then I have some Lembush grown Snapdragons. I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to use the 2 on the side with the 1 Coontie Palm and the 1 over here, and because I've got the wheat over here that I want to draw attention to, so we're just going to add a little bit more depth over in here, and I'm doing a strong insertion in there. I'm going in right now when I don't have a ton of stems. You can see I can lay it across the middle here and mark where that's going to go. So I want it to go way down into the middle of the center piece so that it's right down to the bottom of the foam. So I do want to keep in mind that the Snapdragons are going to curl up to the sun and tomorrow. So by utilizing that Coontie Palm that goes down to the table, then they can have that little bit of a curve up, and I can anticipate that change in direction from when I made it right now. Next we're going to come in with our sunflowers into the focal area. A little bit less experienced person, you can hold it to the side and mark with your finger on the depth that you want to cut it to, and then that way you get that great insertion down into the foam and coming across. And we just want to remember that diagonal placement. So we've got the elongated piece here, and then we're coming across diagonally. Here I'm just gonna poke a hole into that Fatsia leaf to be able to insert that sunflower in there. And then just make sure that they feel like they run together. On sunflowers and roses, different things that are more focal flowers, sometimes it's easy, people want to put them so that they face out, so you see the most. But you can see here, I've tipped them kind of up to the sky, and that adds depth into my design and draws your eye through the design into seeing the different components. Staying with that monochromatic blend of flowers is going to really allow us to control the eye through this design. So there you can see a second presence of that diagonal placement. So now we're going to come in with some of our accessory pieces that come through. I have a little bit of green trick dianthus, and this I'm going to come in right in through the center. It'll finish up that great texture between those two primary elements of the roses and the sunflowers, and just finish off any kind of coverage of mechanics through there. So once again, repeating those threes. You have a little bit of tansy, and that's going to add just a little bit of height and character through here. This is a button tansy. It's a type of yarrow. Just grows seasonally, so this is something that is grown locally here. Not always available all year long, but there's lots of different elements that could be used in the spring to kind of create a centerpiece as well. The biggest thing is the variety of textures here. So I have the sizes and the different textures that all combined to create a unified look. Now I have a couple of the chrysanthemums, the smaller Coontie palms, and they're friends with the sunflowers. So it's going to bring a little bit more attention to the sunflower. I did the smaller look over here. So I'm going to come in and just expand my roses a little bit by adding in a couple stems of these Coontie palms. Over in here. So now you can see how that all ties together. This pulls this to here, here. The yellows, the one repetitiveness from one side to the other. The smaller size on both of them pull it together. And lastly, we're going to add just a little bit of depth of color coming in with the Hypericum. You can see how this is really going to richen it up. I have those dark centers of the sunflowers, and I just want to pull that together a little bit more. And so I'm going to do a similar thing where I've got the one coming out over in there, and then two pieces coming out with my single snap over here. So now I've taken that dark color and pulled it from this side to this side so that your eye makes that connection, and you have those different visual pathways. My primary line lines up with my focal areas, and my secondary lines tie together using some of these colors and textures to unify those two places. And then we're just going to take some of the kangaroo paw, and this just adds that kind of neotropical influence The kangaroo paw is something that's a little bit more of an exotic, but also long lasting. And it draws people in because they may have never seen it before. So it becomes a conversation piece. And then this is a combination of things that are locally grown and internationally grown, so that you have that fun combination. So here I accented that secondary line coming in with the kangaroo paw coming across the top. And so just one stem essentially cut into about 4 pieces. And then we are just going to add a little bit of the bronze oak rust color. And the same thing, I'm not gonna dot them throughout the whole thing. I'm gonna follow this secondary line that I created in contrast with my primary diagonal line. And if I do it on one side, I'm gonna do it on the other to just draw your eye through. And we don't want it to be too overwhelming, but it also added a little bit more of that earth line into the design. So here's our sunflower centerpiece. You can see that they're both a little bit different, but repeating some of those same elements. Using the pave design, this one's a little bit more interpretive because we do have some stems that are rising above that traditional pave centerpiece, but the techniques of placing things on a diagonal and using lines within that horizontal design to draw your eye from one side to the other to really create that dramatic look and kind of that walk through the garden. I'm Sandy Schroeck for Lembush Roses, and I hope I've inspired you to create some fabulous florals.